and welcome back to Intern to Empire, where we talk to young professionals and mentors and get their tips and tricks on how they're winning in their early careers, industry, and life. I'm your host, Ava Swinton, and as my co-host, I have Ina Swinton, and as our guest, we have Julie. If you guys could please both introduce yourselves, starting with Ina and then Julie.
Hi, I'm Ina Swinton. I am Ava's mom and also collaborator in this podcast where we are so excited to talk all things career and mentorship and mentees and internships and across a wide array of industries. And today we are so excited to have Julie with us, and Julie's going to introduce herself.
Oh my gosh, I'm so pleased to be here. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Julie Sharbutt. I am originally from New York, now living in Los Angeles, and I am a writer, director, and actor, making mostly pop, highbrow, horror, and comedy films. And I've been out here 10 years, writing a lot, hiking every day, and just trying to keep head above water during changing professional entertainment times.
Yes, so transformation, changing times, those have been themes of a lot of our podcasts. Where's your favorite place to hike?
Well, I live in Los Feliz, which is right at the foot of Griffith Park. So yeah, I'm in Griffith Park every morning watching hawks and coyotes. And there's a bunch of different little trails are well trod.
I've done those as well near the Griffith
by the observatory.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely stunning. You get a view of, I think, a lot of Los Angeles over from the top there. So
yeah, it's so nice. LA is a great city. I love New York so much. I miss it. Miss it with my whole heart, but LA is a great city.
Where are you from originally?
So I grew up in Greenwich Village. I grew up in
New York,
Fourth and Mercer. Yeah, like right near Washington Square Park in the 80s and 90s. And my mom moved out here 5 years ago, but until then she was still in our childhood home in the village. Yeah, so it's really changed a lot. It used to be, it's still very exciting. It's always been exciting. It was a little more gritty back in the day.
I actually lived on, I think, 3rd and Mercer.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
In the 90s.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about, so you grew up in the city, but then you went to college at Vanderbilt. So what was the transition like going from this very big city life coming to the South, and then tell us a little bit about your experience at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, my gosh. So I grew up in New York, and my mom she was a lawyer and a literary agent. She was sort of putting two careers together. My dad passed away when I was quite young. He was a journalist for the Associated Press. So she was just super hardworking and smart, but always valued the arts. So we were always seeing independent films and theater and plays and art galleries, just like any kind of thing. And not for nothing, but there was a country music radio station back in the day. I think it was like 103.9. And so I don't know, there was a little bit of like a Southern coloring to my experience, even as like a New York kid. And then I went to boarding school, and I love that. And I just wanted a different experience. A lot of my friends went back to New York, back to the East Coast for college. I really wanted just a different cultural experience. So I went to Vanderbilt and just loved it so much. And knew I wanted to be an actor at the time. So knew I wanted like a liberal arts training for undergrad, and that I wanted to go to a grad school for my MFA. So I ended up doing that. I went back to New York. I went to NYU's grad acting program, Williamstown, all these things, and then was acting for a long time before I came out here to be a writer.
Williamstown must have been very special. What plays did you do there?
Oh, so I spent 2 years there, the first as an apprentice and the second in the Act One company. I don't think those exist anymore. I'm not sure, but those were like such amazing programs back in the day, because they would bring these like Broadway actors and like movie stars to come do their mainstage shows. And then they would fill all the tiny roles or backstage like jobs with these like wide-eyed theater kids who were like, oh my God, it's Audra McDonald. Oh my God, it's like, just the craziest, coolest vibe as like a young person you could possibly have. Um, so I did a lot of like new plays my first year, just like workshops, things like that, late night stuff. And then my second year in the Act One company, I did, 12th Night. What are the other ones? Polaroid Stories. There was some other Blood on the Cat's Neck. Yeah, like a dark German play. I mean, it was a time of like great experimentation and like there were great, cool, weird spaces in New York and abroad, and you could really like just cut your teeth and work on cool stuff without a lot of overhead.
So how did you transition from acting to writing? Or maybe you didn't, maybe you're still doing both in some way, but I'd love to know more about that.
Yeah, so I always was a little bit of a multi hyphenate. I wanted to be an actor, but I majored in theater and in English lit at Vanderbilt, and I was in the improv group, tongue in cheek, which was yeah, which was a great group and like was brand new. Like improv was like kind of fresh on the Vanderbilt campus then. And so I was writing, I was performing, and then I got to New York and I wanted to be a classically trained actor, but I also loved the freedom of being inventive and writing sort of on the spot and creating characters on the spot. So I think sort of intuitively, especially once I got into grad school, we were studying Chekhov and these deep like dramaturgical texts. But on my breaks and on summers, I was going to UCB in the pit, and I was like being creative on the spot. So all of that sort of happened at the same time, symbiotically. And so I was writing a lot. And then especially once I graduated, between gigs or auditions, I would write things for myself and my friends so that we could stay active and do interesting, cool, fun stuff together. Yeah. And that's sort of, and I'm not really acting anymore, but that's sort of all transitioned into me writing my first feature film. And then from there being like, I think this is actually where I want to be. This is the space I want to be in.
I love that you were doing it to stay active with the people you wanted to work with, because that's something we were going to ask you about, collaboration.
Oh, yeah.
So it's how do you collaborate well? What do you look for?
Like, what are tips for being a good collaborator?
Oh, man. I mean, I think I intuited this. I always felt I was always very community first, like collaboration forward. I loved playing off of people, especially like in improv and in theater. It was so like I love sharing that space. I love like, you know, reacting in real time with people, feeling people's energies around you. Um and so yeah, and then once that became more channeled into like a formal kind of training, it is really just about listening and being authentic and being really like present and gentle while also being really front-footed, and all that stuff is just so brave and it's so smart, and I just think that I think that those are the most humane and interesting qualities that a person can have. So yeah, I think collaboration for me really just comes down to like find really decent people who are open and honest and willing to share their talent and their sort of their soul with you. And from there you can just sort of like be creative and silly as long as you feel safe to explore ideas together.
I love that. The soul part is part of sort of like, how do you have meaningful work? You connect with good people who are willing to be vulnerable with you, as long
Yeah.
as and you create a safe space for others to show themselves.
Yeah, I was actually talking with a friend of mine the other day who's a TV writer, and he was saying that it was interesting. He'd been on TV staffing in writing in rooms that were on Zoom and writing in rooms that are in person. And he said rooms on Zoom, like, so grateful for those in certain times and certain circumstances, but in person, you can turn to your friend and sort of bounce a joke off of them, or bounce like, is this funny? And you are feeling out a joke in real time. And it's very hard not to be able to do that and not to like feel you have somebody at your shoulder who you can trust to be like, is this like, what is this? Is this funny? Is this anything? Like,
Well, especially humor. It's funny because I did stand up, and we would, during the pandemic, we moved onto online shows, and I cannot think something harder than doing stand up on Zoom where everyone has to mute themselves so that you could be heard, and only one person can laugh at a time, maybe. And it's very hard, as you're saying, it's very hard to feel out if a joke works because you have
yeah.
laughter and you need reactions. So it's nice to know that in person Hollywood is, you know, is well. I guess you could tell us more about that as well, Ava. We have a question
Yeah.
about the current state of affairs
Oh
in
yeah.
the industry and
Yeah.
Hollywood. Yes. How do you feel about all that?
You know, I think I am optimistic. I think things move in cycles, and I think that it's hard because like for my money, I need to be in a room full of people. I need like because I come from theater, I think I value the experience of going to the movie theater, watching something in collaboration with the people around me, laughing together, screaming together. So that's what it is for me. And if I can't do that, then I don't know what I'm making. And so I think that there are enough people who are in this business who feel the same way. Like they really want the event of going to the theater and watching a movie together to continue to exist. Um, and we're always going to need films and TV shows to make us feel good. Like I can watch cat videos until until like, you know, from sunrise to sunset. And that scratches a certain itch, but it doesn't scratch the same itch as like watching a great movie. Yeah, I'm optimistic, but it is hard. It's going to be harder to find. There's not really like a linear career path anymore. And you have to be really creative, I think at an early age. I mean, I think it has to be at an early age, you have to like really kindle a passion in yourself and chase it down with everything you have, because it's going to be really hard unless you have that conviction firing behind you.
How do you think AI has played a role into maybe these like sort of no longer linear career paths? And how do you think that it will continue to change and grow as writers also progress and grow?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of the mind with a lot of my the people I admire in the business that it will not affect writing as much. I think scripts need to come from human beings, and I think that there's a certain element of like things can be perfected structurally using AI, but I still want to see weird films, and weird films are never going to be replicated using AI. I think AI is going to infiltrate um, pre-production, and maybe not in the worst way. I think storyboarding, temp music, things like that, like those things, it will become a more facile tool for figuring out sort of the outer elements of production. Um, I think for lots of reasons, I hope, but I think it won't end up on screen as much because that stuff is so unregulated and doesn't belong to anyone, so you can't really own it. You can't really like own the rights to something that you are kind of borrowing from the ether. So, at least for now, I think we're kind of safe. But yeah, I think all you can do is just like, you know, hand a camera, make what you can right now and hope that it reaches its audience.
Yeah, because AI, I guess the way these large language models work is sort of the next predictable thing, and they average out a lot of the things out there, and sort of so I feel I agree with you. I'm a writer as well, and I think all those tiny little neuroses or curiosities or things that make you human do end up on the page. And it's interesting if you read enough of the AI generated things. I mean, they do have a different sort of, I think, vulnerability, or as I was saying, in a different humor, because So I'm hoping that aside from the legal issues of who owns it, there's, that we are properly figuring out its place in different industries.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I think it's no surprise that like a lot of younger audiences are turning to older films, older TV shows. And
mhm,
I think it's because they're so raw and fresh and human. And um I think that is never going to go away, especially as like we turn to these media to take us out of these tech dystopias that we're in.
yes,
Um,
that's
you
interesting.
know,
Like a relaxation from our like very mediated environment.
yeah,
Well, more,
yeah.
yeah, and just different because I noticed, especially on LinkedIn, a lot of the posts have like a very similar quality to them because I think everyone can, in a way, write at an average level now or even above
Mhm.
average. I've noticed people, I'm from the Russian community, and I know a lot of immigrants, and my mom used to always ask me for help with writing greeting cards and just little things like that. And there's some older people that came here later, and for I think it's quite helpful
For
for people's
them.
confidence because
Yeah.
it lifts up their ideas and somehow allows them to feel, that they're communicating at a higher level of grammar and expression. But it is interesting how it's helping people who need a little extra boost. But a lot of those who studied literature or writing, it can, when you read, AI generated work, I think a lot of it's like there's a lot of it, but it's hard to even remember some of the things you read that have been, generated. And everyone's so prolific because everyone's using these things, in business writing. I think hopefully helping
Yeah.
be a little more safe. Ava, do you have the
I
next
had
question?
I had a thought. So you were saying you majored in both theater and literature. What was the idea? Like, what did you come in with, or if you came in with either of those majors, and sort of where did you get the idea of adding another on top of that?
I think let's see. I loved theater and English and literature. It wasn't creative writing. I came in it was theater performance basically and English lit, which was reading. It was academic. It was all like I wasn't doing any of the creative writing. I was just reading, Faulkner and all the people all the great literary minds that you read when you go to a Southern university, which was very surprising and funny
Did
to me.
a Southern Lit class at Yale,
Really?
and we read
Yeah.
Faulkner and Kate. Gosh, there's a great author. Is it Chopin? No, I forget her. Eudora Welty. We read a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of the great Tennessee Williams. We read like a lot of the different writers, and I guess it's such a beautiful part of American literature because it's so gothic and so there's so much emotion and color. I always sort of
Yeah.
romanticize.
Yeah. I loved it. But it was so funny because that really was like the sort of emphasis being a Southern university, and it had not occurred to me that that would be. I mean, obviously like Victorian literature and things too, but it was just very funny. But yeah, so I came in knowing that I had an interest in both of those things, and mostly like between like AP credits and whatever, I sort of was able to fit both in. So I just was like, you know what, I just am equally interested in these two things. Um, and I think that they support each other. Like they're a they're a symbiotic enough like shared interest. But I mean, at the time though, too, Vanderbilt didn't have a film major,
Yeah.
so I couldn't do that. I probably should have been like a economics minor or something, at least like a little useful. Not to suggest that English literature is not useful. Not to suggest any of my professors who are watching, but yeah, it mostly I really just like dove straight into like a very emotional sort of, literary driven mm, academic career and did a ton of plays and just filled my calendars with everything arts at Vanderbilt.
So what did you do after Vanderbilt? How did that your next career stage happen? Did you go to New York then? And oh wait, I know what you did after Vanderbilt. What did you do after Tisch? Like, did you do the Williamstown? How long did you stay in New York exactly before? And what made you move west to do the writing? How do you go between LA and New York to make your decision?
Oh yeah. I graduated from Vanderbilt. There's a second where I was like, maybe I'll go to Chicago and do comedy. And that I visited and I was like, no, it's not really, I think that's not what I'm interested in. So I went back to New York where I'm from. I spent 2 years out of Vanderbilt, like auditioning, seeing if I could sort of get there organically. Uh, Interning at Upright Citizens Brigade. I interned there for like a year and a half, took every class, got to know those great world-class improvisers and comedians. And then I got into Williamstown. And at that point, I was in the Act One company at Williamstown, and I saw all these actors the year ahead of me who were NYU grad acting actors. And it was people like Steve Kazee, who won the Tony for Once, and Eddie Gathegi, who Mr. Terrific in Superman, and Eliza Baldy, and just who else? Man, just like the most incredible actors I'd ever seen, and most incredible young actors I'd ever seen. And I just was like, oh my God, if I want to do this, really do this, I have to be where they are and learn what they're learning. So that was it. So I auditioned for NYU and I did that. And then NYU was amazing. I came out. It was sort of like the start of it was 2009 that I graduated. It was sort of the start of like, it was a shift in things. It was sort of the start of a recession, um, and also a shift into sort of like TV casting and celebrity casting. And it was harder. It was like a moment where it was a lot harder for just like theater actors to go get small parts in jobs that used to feed into a larger career. And so it was tough. It was a very tough like world to break into at that point, but I was really lucky. I booked a bunch of commercials. I booked with The Good Wife and a bunch of other great TV shows. I made friends who would invite me to come do readings and read for CBS shows and read for pilots. So yeah, it was even then. And then I was doing improv. I was doing improv at the Pit and UCB. So I was just like constantly on fire. I was constantly just like doing things that filled me up and made me excited. All while, of course, living with roommates and working in restaurants, as you do.
Which restaurant?
Oh my God. I mean,
Okay. That's a good
Perry
one.
Street. Yeah, Pasties. Yeah. Yeah.
Pasties, oh my God, they just opened one up in Nashville recently, this past summer.
Yeah, you did the French.
Yeah. Isn't it
Yeah.
crazy? They opened it up
Oh,
right by
that's
where
crazy.
the office for Ranges. It's like in this like cute little like Wedge Hill, Houston area. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so wild. I just saw that they opened a Minetta Tavern in DC too. I'm like, I don't, this is okay. But yeah,
I used to go.
we're
I
just
used
out there.
to East and Balthazar
Oh my God, yes.
back in the day, and then we actually have Balthazar in New Jersey.
Oh yeah, they opened a Balthazar in New Jersey, which is
Well, it's a big green.
yeah, but
Yeah,
well they have like the bakery
Yeah,
version,
yeah.
not the restaurant.
Yeah.
version.
Yeah.
Really good.
So delicious.
So,
Sounds
So wait,
very
when
good.
did you officially make your move to LA?
So in 2011, 2012, I wrote a play. I wrote a 3-character play set in one location. It was just like it was in real time, 3 characters. And I tried to get a couple productions off the ground. I couldn't really get it going. And then my mom actually, she said, "Honey, why don't you make this a film? Because it's low budget. You can do this, and it will last forever.
Mhm.
It's not just like going to be gone over 3 weeks over an Actors Equity Showcase run." And I was like, "Okay, yeah." So we raised $20,000 on Kickstarter. And it was me, my classmate Lee Dolson, who was one of the funniest, most brilliant actors in my class at NYU, and this other actor, Will Bozarth. And we just did it. We got a production company. We did this like low overhead, tiny, tiny, tiny production. We shot the film all in one take, one 86-minute take.
Wow.
Wow. So
Yeah, like
how much rehearsal went into the process before the actual tape?
yeah, we rehearsed for about 2 weeks, and then we rehearsed for one of those weeks with our DP and our sound guy. So literally, because we had to choreograph them into our movements around the house, to land shots and land frames and all of those sort of things. So yeah, we shot the thing in its entirety 6 times.
Okay, that's
And
what I was gonna say, that you did it. And did you decided to use one of those 6 takes, obviously, as opposed to
yeah, the sixth, the sixth one.
that's because you knew when to stop or the time
Yeah,
went.
no, that last one. Yeah, it was both like the best of the takes and the one where we ran out of money. Like, yeah, that was the time to call cut. But yeah, but it was
Technically,
amazing.
the mother of invention.
True.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And the reason we did it with that sort of experimental way of filming is because we were like, we have $20,000. Let's make the most interesting film we can make for that amount of money. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and it was like, so it was sort of a gimmick, but it worked and it was interesting. And it got us into like 2 festivals and we got distribution. And that was amazing. And that's sort of the point at which I was like, all right, it's time for me to go out to LA. It's time for me to write and direct. And I'm super grateful. It was always the right move, but it was a lot harder to like get the next projects going once I moved out here. There's again, no linear path.
So did you know people in LA when you first got there?
Not really. I knew like a handful of sort of actor friends who'd moved out, a handful of like comedy friends. Um, I joke about a lot of the sort of like running joke is I would call the few people I knew and be like, "Hey, do you want to go see a movie?" And they'd be like, "Sure, yes. Let's pencil that in for 3 weeks from Tuesday." And I'd be like, but like I need friends now." Like I need friends to hang with right
Right.
now.
That's so funny. I've heard
And
about
so,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very lonely. It was a very lonely first year, but then I started doing shows at UCB. I got into Film Fatales, which is a collective of female feature film directors, and that was so valuable. So I really started to build a community finally, and once that happened, it was great. Yeah. Yeah.
So what was the premise of your the first play turned movie?
It was called Moved, and it was just about a young woman who comes back to the apartment she shared with her boyfriend to like move all of her stuff out after their breakup. And she discovers that he is there, and their other roommate is there, and he is trying to sort of win her back, but isn't sure of his feelings. So it's just this very dark breakup comedy in the midst of a literal move out of an apartment.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how
Yeah.
did you move? So okay, so I know when we talked last time, you write now, you have written now in horror comedy. So how did you make the move from like the dark comedy, or like what sort of got you interested in the idea of the horror side of the dark comedy?
Yeah, this is actually like a wild transition because I was always interested in comedy
Mhm.
and I was always interested in like the physiological response to art. I was always interested in theater to like your body responding, your body like people crying together, people screaming, laughing together. It had not really occurred to me that and I also loved ghost stories. Like I loved sort of it's more like Victorian supernatural. I was never a body horror fan. But I loved ghost stories. I love The Shining. I love The Exorcist, the
Hmm.
classics.
Hmm.
And so it really wasn't until I got out to LA, made that film, I'd written several follow-up features that I couldn't get off the ground, and those were comedies. But my then boyfriend at the time said, you need to make a short. Like, you need to write a short film and get in festivals. So I wrote a short film that's about 3 characters on a hiking trip, 3 women best friends on a hiking trip who hear a noise outside their tent in the middle of the night and sort of buck each other up, reassure each other, cajole each other. And then through a very horrific turn, we learned that it's actually one woman alone the whole time, imagining that her friends are there because she's so scared. And I wrote and directed this film. I was like, all right, I need to like get into Sundance. I need to do this. I need to do this. But I showed it to a friend who worked at a horror production company, and she said, "By the way, you know that you've made a horror film, right?" And I was like, "What? No." And she was like, "Yes. And also, horror film festivals are really fun, And that's where people are going to look for new filmmakers. And it just like, it hit me like a ton of bricks that people were like actively looking for new voices in the genre space. And this was sort of before it was, I think this was before Get Out. It was before the pivot from like, oh, horror can be prestige. Oh, a low budget horror can be really cool and make a huge splash in the industry. And so when she said that, it really like hit me. And I was like, of course that makes so much sense. So I wrote a feature horror that I love that we were supposed to make in, summer of 2020. Some things happened. But yeah, from that point on, was like, oh my gosh, I love this space. I love writing in this space because of the theatrical, physiological reaction thing.
Are you scared of, so I always find it so funny because I feel like the acting part of horror might be scarier than because I've always been scared of sort of acting in things that are just so traumatic because, as an actor, you sort of go there in your imagination and then you might be seeing horror everywhere around you if you don't protect yourself enough. So I don't know. As a director, I think it's different because you see all the artifice as well. But actually, we're invited to a horror festival. Speaking of this, I'm not sure if we can make it, but it's in New Orleans. I guess.
Oh, is it Overlook?
Yes. So it's
Great
Overlook.
fest.
I know
Yeah.
it has an incredible. Alexa, my other
one of my little sister.
Yes. So we did a short this summer. Well, she acted in a short, and it's a great director producer team, and we loved the script. And it was sort of a proof of concept script, but they were gonna for a feature. So they just emailed us yesterday that got into one of the shorts programs at Overlook, and the lineup is
So
crazy.
cool.
It's like I think the keynote is like Adam Scott is in a horror film that's going to be the main feature, but also they're rescreening, I think, American Werewolf in London or something like one of that. And also a Japanese horror movie that is 100 years old that had been lost for like 45 years.
The footage was lost.
And it's actually the first horror movie ever made in Japan from like 1926. So it's super cool. So I don't know if we're going to be able to go, but Alexa stars in this short and it's excellent. So I don't know, but I think it's also, I agree with you. It's a great place to find new voices because there's so many elements you have to hit in a horror movie, right? Whether it's drama, I think especially in a comedy horror movie, I think you have to sort of do it all because you have to scare people, you have to make them laugh.
My brother also did a horror comedy movie, The Brown Evil.
Oh, that was excellent.
For months, it scared me.
There was a Coney Island. That one was at the Coney Island Horror.
Oh yeah.
As well. So we've been to a few of those.
But I didn't go inside the festival other than for his film because I think I was maybe 9. So I walked in, sat at his film, and then we left.
Ava gets very scared. I'm actually
because I wrote that one of my least movies when I was I said that it was The Substance because it scared me so much.
That's body horror. I think that is
We were talking about that and we were saying, well, because you enjoyed The Substance, correct?
I did.
I did too, actually. And I'm normally not. I don't like to see people like. I actually get very scared at the Scream movies, even though they're very funny. I get scared. I was so scared of Friday the 13th when I was younger, and Halloween was like one of the worst. So Friday the 13th is at a sleepaway camp, isn't that right? Or at some camp it takes place. That was one of like the first very popular.
I get scared of everything.
Yeah, I actually don't mind the.
I think Stranger Things is terrifying.
I don't mind the ghost stories.
Yeah.
I like the ghost stories, like turning of the screw. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I really I also like. I say I like horror, and I do, and I watch a lot of it, and I write a lot of it, but I do also operate in a space where I am very conscious of what my mission is. And my mission is to create horror comedy and horror in a space really for people, mostly women, who don't feel like they are invited to that genre.
Yes.
Like I like to share, I make films basically where I can show like my aunts, like I want people to feel like they can watch it.
Well, they're not invited unless they're being slashed or murdered, or, they're invited to be murdered in the movies,
Yeah.
not to
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
interesting. So you think women filmmakers are not as much invited, and women viewers?
Both. I mean, I think women filmmakers, even though genre horror is good territory for like new voices, new filmmakers, I think it still is still very hard for women. I mean, it's hard for women filmmakers to break in anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're just not as well financed. They're not as well financed. They're not as well regarded, respected. People don't think that their films are going to be as marketable, which is crazy because they are. Like they super are, and like more than 50% of ticket buyers are women. So I could go on about this for a long time, but that said too, yeah, I think genre and horror films are really fun. But as a person who enjoys that medium, I find myself really at odds with a lot of what the content is because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my brain to be scarred. Like
Yes.
I want
Yes.
to watch a film that is like fun and scary that won't leave me having nightmares. So I'm trying to make films in that space for people, yeah, that I want to
Like,
feel like they can watch.
I
Yeah.
want to watch like a good film that will not have me literally having nightmares for months about something. But I also would love to have like that emotional feeling, like you were saying, like what it feels like to be in a theatrical production where it's like you're playing off each other, like the screen. I can like understand what's going on, and I have like a reaction to it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a friend of mine who works in theater out here in LA made this observation. There's a lot of horror plays coming up soon. Like their Paranormal Activity was just at Center Theater Group, and I think it's called like 322 or something from London. And the British
322?
especially are they sorry? I
222
think
from
it was called
London.
322.
Oh, maybe
Yeah.
322. There was a play also 222 from London that
Oh, that's what it was. It was 222.
oh yeah. Okay, wait.
It'd be funny
My
if there were two
wait, I
plays.
know. I was like, because
It's
my
somewhere in there.
theater class, they went on a trip to London last year that I unfortunately couldn't go on, and they saw this play, and they were like, it was so weird but so cool, and I was like,
Is it coming to
Yeah.
LA?
It came to LA. That came to LA. Paranormal Activity came to LA and is traveling. But there's this thing. I mean, like this is like horror really does lend itself to like this theatrical, corporeal like experience in a room together that feels a little less scary because you're all sharing in it in real time, and it's actors on stage. But yeah, it's also fascinating. My favorite film, bar none, of 2026 so far is 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple,
Yes.
which is
I think it was too scary for
yeah.
you. It was the sequel to what was it? What was the first one of those? I think there was like 128 years ago or something that was done, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was 28 days later, 28 weeks
Yes.
later, and then
Okay, got it.
20-year
That's
gap, and now 28 years later for part one and part two.
right.
Bone Temple is part two. It came out this year. Both written by Alex Garland. This one, though, was directed by Nia DaCosta, who directed like the Candyman sequel and this great indie little film called Little Woods. So, woman director, and it is such a beautiful and interesting,
Wow. We have to put that on our
funny
list.
Shakespearean film. But I'm going to tell you that there is one scene in it that you will have to fast forward.
Fast forward. Okay, we'll have to.
Yeah.
Will we feel it coming? Do you feel
Yeah,
the
I think
scene
so.
coming? How
Yeah,
does
you do feel the scene coming.
Okay. So in the old
Yeah.
days of Shakespeare, some of those tragedies have a lot of horror in them, right? Like Macbeth, everybody gets killed, and
Yeah,
all
Titus Andronicus.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
in pies. Yeah.
so people wanted to see that, always,
but
right, on
it's slightly
stage.
different. It does
A
feel
lot of the
different
Greek
on
tragedy,
it
people
feels different on the stage than it does on film, because film just feels so
So
much more
immediate.
real and you're so
Mhm.
close to it. Like when you're in a stage, you can see yourself, like I'm in the sea, I'm watching a production. But like for some reason, when you watch the movie, it feels so much more real.
especially if you're watching it at home, because you're like alone in a dark house and you're watching. I think that's always like the quintessential, experience. But teens love horror movies. It's like
Mhm.
I think it's a very well, you might, and I'd always associate it also with like people going on a date, in like a movie
Oh,
theater
yeah.
in the 50s and because I guess it's good to get scared because then you can enjoy the experience with the other person.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about have you been to Overlook, or do you go do the circuit of some of these festivals?
I do. I have not been to Overlook, but I've heard amazing things from friends in the communities who've gone. I've been to the last like few years. I've had two short films that I wrote and directed, and two short films that I wrote, and several screenplays go into screenplay competition. So I mean, I couldn't even actually give you like a tally, but like I've been to dozens of festivals over the last couple of years, and all over the country, all over the world. I went to Cannes 2 summers ago, I guess, and yeah, and we got into the Busan Fantastic Fest and Fantaspoa in Brazil and Final Girls Berlin. I mean, there are such cool festivals all over, and it's so fun and it's so exciting. It's not for everyone. It's not a great experiment if you like don't like to go into rooms and just talk to strangers because that's what you have to do at these festivals. But you meet amazing people and you get to experience all these different cities and cultures. And I remember going to a festival in Cheyenne, Wyoming, the Wyoming International Film Fest,
Mm-hmm.
and and you really get a sense of how small that city is and that state is, and you get a sense of however many people who live in Cheyenne, of the people who love horror films, those people are going to show up and want to talk to you. And it's so cool. Like you're talking to like, everyone in that city who is into what you're into. It's just great, but it takes a lot of like travel and hard work and extroversion.
Extroversion, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question in a slightly different direction, but as a creative, how do you deal with rejection or with sort of a maybe, not always a yes?
Wow. I mean, yeah, I'll let you know when I find out. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's brutal. You have to remember that it's not personal. You have to remember that everything is subjective. Um, you have to keep a close circle of people who love you and will champion you always, like around you, because you just need to be reminded that your voice is of value, even if like so and so didn't think so, or so and so said this is not good. Yeah, I have trouble fixing my face sometimes when I'm in meetings and things go wrong. I'm learning to be better about that. But yeah, moreover, I think like also the more I'm in this business, the older I get and the more I'm in this business, the more scripts I write that I know are good. I'm like, okay, you didn't like that? Okay. Like I'm not going to work to convince you because I know it's good and I know that the person who will like this is out there. So, yeah. As long as you're not being mistreated or misled, then it really is just a matter of being like, okay, next chapter. Yeah.
Yes, my favorite saying from
Norman Lear.
Norman Lear, over next. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
the only true success. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I know she got memed like crazy for it, but Lady Gaga saying, in a room full of 100 people, you're just looking for one yes. She's right. Yeah,
100% right. 100% right.
yeah.
Because she grew up like playing bars, and actually, she's from New York, and she did have piano lessons. So she had the privilege of, being supported early on. And it's a hard thing to break through. You really do need that early support, I think. And it sounds like you had that from your mom, that she was a
Yeah.
champion in your corner.
Yeah, always. I mean, she was concerned what I wanted to go into the arts. She was definitely like, "Are you sure you don't want to be a lawyer?" Or, but she was always supportive, always loving, always coming to my shows and excited to see what I was doing. And so, yeah, she was the first one, but then friends and I think too, it's really done good things for me to have friends who are outside of the industry,
Mm.
because I have wonderful friends who are also writers, directors, who are also in the industry. But I think having people outside to sort of balance like a sort of more holistic perspective is really meaningful and important to me. Plus, like I can write characters based on details that they're.
Exactly. Because all your writer friends are like, don't take this. We're like at
Yeah.
lunch. I know how writers feel when I'm with other writers. I'm like, this one is for me. But they're going to write about everything.
Yeah.
Because a writer,
Yeah.
what else are they going to
Or when
write
I get
about?
to Yeah, or when I get to talk to my friend who's like an eye surgeon, I'm like, my gosh, tell me more about that.
Yes, yes.
These things, the people with experiences that you can learn from and ask questions of, like, it's so valuable and so cool. And it drives your own curiosity to like continue to look outside yourself for inspiration.
Yes, I love that when you're in a cafe and you overhear like snippets of conversations, and there's just always there's always so much. I think the real world is full of crazy stories that you wouldn't expect. So,
Yeah.
um, so one thing is, can you tell us a little bit about your process of writing? So, do you have a routine?
Yeah.
How do you inspiration versus, just sitting down on days you don't feel like writing?
Yeah, I guess process wise, I mean it's a little tricky. Generally speaking, like overall, I try to write at least two new projects a year. So in that overall sort of umbrella statement, I'm writing like maybe a pilot and a feature a year is my hope. Um that doesn't it's not like hard and fast, but I like to sort of keep my eyes ahead on the horizon because I am continually having great ideas and they just have to come out even if I'm working on getting something into production.
Hmm.
So, generally speaking, I am not like a 5 hours a day or 3 hours a day like writer. I get up, I go for a hike, I come back, I answer emails, I watch Seth Meyers, which I DVR'd the night before, um, and then I try to sit down and either outline or start thinking about the next project I'm working on. That's like the writing process. Generally, I write very fast. I will have an idea, I will roll it around for a long time, and
Hmm.
then I will sort of set aside a blank slate of time and just that idea will come out. And then I'll take notes, I'll share it with friends, I'll work on drafts, I'll put it away for a while to pull it back out. So that's sort of my writing process. But in the meantime, like I have two feature films I'm trying to get made this year. So writing right now will probably take a back seat for another month or so as I'm just like trying to get those going. And I hate that. I really like I love writing. But sometimes it's like nobody talk to me writing time and sometimes it's like everybody talk to me finance time. So,
I like that you have to balance the
yeah.
two. I mean, would you say school is like that as well? The way
Oh,
you manage your day?
definitely. I think so. I'm involved with like we've talked. It's like a very like different like very many different things. Like I'm in an acapella group, but I'm also like a competitive rower there. It's just like when you're focusing on like even in classes, like when you have an exam that week, like some of your other classes just take a backside. Well, like okay, it's nice to do the readings and it's nice to stay on top of your class, but ultimately like what you're trying to get done that has the time bracket is the most important things, especially like coming up. We have our acapella concert April 12th, so exactly a month from today. So I'm sure that like I will be putting more hours into practicing and making sure like the parts are there and done than I probably will be putting into like maybe like doing extra work for other stuff. So I think it's always about finding the time bracket you have and making sure that you're putting your priority. And it can change based on the day, based on what you are putting the effort into. But I think that's just a life thing. And I think it's a very valuable thing to learn early on is how to prioritize things that are important to you and ultimately things that help you like progress overall.
Yeah, and figuring out your schedule and what works for you. I mean, I figured out it took me a long time to figure out that I operate best waking up early, getting my routine done, going to bed early. Like, it took me a really long time to figure out what my rhythms are, not just as far as being a writer, but also as far as just like living my best life. And also recognizing, like, for example, a friend of mine has taken a script out very kindly to a bunch of folks and wrote to me the other day and said, okay, like this person's interested. We need all of these materials. Like we need a deck and we need this and we need this. And I just had to put everything down and
Hmm.
basically pull an all-nighter. I don't like that was not in my body anymore. And I had to sort of
Right.
reconfigure again and be like, all right, sometimes you have to readjust, especially if you're freelancing, especially if you're creating your own schedule, your own life. But, as long as you can sort of like breathe through, accommodate, move some things around. Yeah. But it's challenging. It's super challenging. And I'm, years into learning how to do that.
That's interesting. I'm working also, I have with a producer on one of my scripts. And I also had to do that. And it's hard because my kids are here and like everybody, I have my routines that have to do with other things. And I did one weekend where I was just a couple of weeks ago, I was working till 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, writing, just to meet a deadline. Deadlines, I have to read this article. I just saw an article that why deadlines work. So I have to look it up. I know they've always worked for me because I think you get that excitement. It just makes it's almost like a challenge, right? Can I get to a certain point?
Well, even us, like we submitted college applications at 11:59.
That I don't know if I want to repeat, but I did every one of our applications. Well, Ava's applications, our applications, our families,
There were some that we submitted at 11:59 p.m. that they were due that day.
It's unbelievable. I cannot believe that you would treat something as important as a college application, and you have all this time, and still, I think because you want to make it better, so you sort of want to take every possible moment to make it better. But that was an extremely stressful period of time.
So stressful.
I think we did that 2 weeks ago.
And then we figured out. Well, okay, there was one where we submitted it at like 11:50, and then once we went to go hit submit, it said you have to fill out all of your classes by hand, so you can't upload a transcript.
We thought we were uploading it.
We thought we were uploading 11:50. We're like, great, 10 minutes to spare. All of a sudden, we had to upload all of these classes by hand from like freshman year to senior year. So I opened up a computer, my mom opened up a computer, my dad opened up a computer, and my sister, and we all spent we're just crunching in the numbers from each class grade. Oh my God, it was the most stressful thing I've ever done.
It was crazy. That one was that was crazy. I wouldn't recommend any of that kind of deadline pressure, but it did work. We did get it.
So.
I mean, yeah, there are many scripts that I've written with there's a handful of festival screenplay, some festivals that are great that I just sort of keep hand up to be okay, that deadline's coming up then, that deadline's all right. Even if I'm not writing it necessarily to submit it, I'm all right, if I want to write this in time for that, yeah. But yeah, deadlines, I love a deadline.
What are some of your favorite movies?
Oh my gosh.
You can give multiple. I know there's not a single.
No, yeah. It's tough because I see so many films and I love new films, but Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility is probably my favorite film of all time. I love that film so much. Yes. It's such a great film. The Ring, I love. What else Palm Beach Story, Preston Sturges. I love classic films, classic comedies. Shaun of the Dead. It's really funny. I'm swinging back.
I've never seen Shaun of the Dead, but a lot of people have mentioned it.
Oh my God, that is a great film. That's absolutely one worth watching. That's and it really, that film is probably a touchstone for so much of what I write because it's deeply character driven, very, very humane, very much about friendships, but also it's totally silly and about zombies. Great film. Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. When Harry Met Sally.
I love Harry Met Sally.
Yeah, you'd love
that. Harry Met Sally's up my ballpark.
Yeah. Oh, yay. Yeah. There's some other great ones.
Comedy. Yeah, it's a drama.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's some good ones.
You'd love that one. Yeah, Romeo.
Which one? Oh, if you haven't seen that, classic. Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a great one.
Okay. Another question is, what's some advice that you can give to Vanderbilt students who are looking to break into the entertainment industry, or not even Vanderbilt students, but students in general?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's this is very much do as I say, not as I do. But I think it's know what you want to do and just attack, and also don't be afraid of getting in sort of a way that's more infrastructural. I really came into all of this as a creative and I don't regret it at all. I'm very proud of the moves that I made to do that. But when I talk, especially to like Vandy and Hollywood applicants and things like that, I see all of these young students asking interesting questions about where they want to work and all these things. And man, if I had to go do it over and spend a summer interning at CAA or interning at like one of these giant studios or production companies, I feel like I would be so served by just the opportunity to learn, seeing from the inside how something like that works. But that said, I think like approach it with super tenacity, make yourself as useful as possible, be really outgoing and brave and helpful and kind. And also just like keep an eye on who's around you, because the people who are your age who are like fanning out and doing interesting things in your field and not, those are going to be your peers, and those people, you're going to feed off each other as you grow in your careers. Um, like, and again, I took such a weird sort of creative side path to this career, but it's still true even in the way that I did it. Going to Williamstown, going to um, NYU's grad acting program, I still run into actors that I admired or worked with 20, 30 years ago. And the game has changed. And now I'm like running into people like, I don't know, Annie Parise or Josh Hamilton, people that I was obsessed with when I was like a young actor starting out. And I'm seeing these people as peers out in the world. And I can have conversations with them because I know their work, because we're into the same thing. We're all responding genuinely to the things that we love so much. And that's the other thing too, just like authenticity. And like, if you love it, like chase it down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you love it, chase it down. I think that's excellent advice.
I love it.
And then also take the opportunity to learn from the business part of it. So it's sort of the two things together.
Mhm.
If you love it, chase it down, but also see what it's like inside a studio. See how the creative things, get made and distributed, and how that happens, or CAA, the talents. So I think that's excellent advice, because then you'll just know more of how to make that creative path. And maybe you'll
Yeah.
find
I mean,
to be in the studio or be at CA. Not everyone wants to act. Some people want to produce, or.
yeah. And things can change too. Like one of my absolute favorite filmmakers is Mike Flanagan. I adore Mike Flanagan. I will watch anything he makes, but he started as an editor. Like he was an editor, he trained in that. He was he was editing, and then he sort of pivoted to writing filmmaking. You can come from a totally different background as long as you are investing, your passion and like looking forward and growing as you're doing whatever your trade is.
I think editing is actually an incredible background for film
Yeah.
and TV, because then as you film things, you can see how you might edit them. So you have that kind of point of view that, I know I could use this. And I think a lot of the best filmmakers definitely know a lot about editing, because they know what's possible with their films.
Yeah, I had a very interesting conversation with my friend who's in this play Meat Suit in New York right now, and this play is a clown play, and she is an actor in it. It's very theatrical, but she was talking about the difference in audiences. Sometimes nights would be raucous and laughing, and other nights people would be kind of quiet and pensive. And she said, she was like, there's lots of reasons for it, but I think you, meaning me, and she were both raised on The Simpsons and Looney Tunes and things that are funny on the page, but also funny in the frame. Like things that are funny because they're visually silly. There's like different levels of humor going on. And that sort of plays into what we find funny and how we present it. And sometimes people who don't have that shared reference point just aren't going to like respond in the same way. I
Right.
forgot why I mentioned this, but yeah. Yeah.
They
Oh,
may
editing, right.
But they may still, with audiences, I was actually talking about that the other night. I was saying, from the perspective of an actor, sometimes that quieter audience still really appreciates what they're seeing and feeling. It's just that sometimes it will take two people cackling to give permission to others to laugh.
Well, we were
yeah.
we were watching, both my sister and my brother just did Once at my brother's school.
Once the musical, yeah.
Yes.
Cute.
And we
It's the
came to
best.
all three shows. So I think we were always constant laughs laughs at most of the jokes, but it was interesting for them. Even if we laughed on some of the days and the rest of the audience didn't, it can be harder for them to play off of the audience's energy.
Yeah, they actually, everyone loved it all 3 nights. It's just, sometimes it's a little quieter audience, but in my experience, those are sometimes the people that love it the most, even. They picked up on different nuances of the play, right? Because it's not just a comedy. So there's yes.
It's not a comedy in general.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
So a quieter, there's a lot of laughs, but it's quite sad, really.
It's very sad.
It's very sad. I cried like 3 times. So maybe one day, more people had broken dreams in the audience or didn't get their love, that lasted their whole life. Let go of that person that could have made them happy, or let go of a dream. So I just thought it was actually a perfect play. I saw it,
we saw it on Broadway.
I saw it on Broadway, and honestly, I thought this production was just so powerful. They had all these.
It was also a very small space. It was in a black box theater, and I think that it worked better because the audience was more intimate with the actors.
And you felt like you were watching a band. You felt like you were watching real people in a real space. And there was just something about it where it wasn't presentational the way it is on Broadway. And I think it's a smaller, like the more intimate you can be with these people, the more you feel their feeling. To me, I enjoyed it even better than the Broadway version, because as long as they can play the music really well, and have which they did, and have some incredible actors. So I thought it's also because the music director came from a professional background, and the director also did her MFA.
And when we were seeing Once, so we saw Once at Night, which my siblings were in. We also went to go see Bring It On, which was at my old high school.
Yes, which is
so wildly different.
Oh my God.
It was also like to bring it on, like at my high school, we have these huge productions. We have like a 1,200 person
it's a theater program
auditorium.
Right. Yeah.
All 4 nights almost. At Bring It On, they did it in the gym, and they had a cast of 75 this year. It was crazy. It was so different than the Once production we saw at my brother's school.
So we went one day. We did both. So we went during the day. We went to the 70 person Bring It On with like real cheerleaders and bands and all this crazy stuff, and then we went to my son's school, and it was this beautiful, intimate with production with these incredible musicians.
So different.
So it was just so different, but both. And that's what's magical, right? Like we shared it with all the people in the auditorium at the gym. And it was like so rousing. We all sat in risers. It's because they had an accident in there.
We had that whole, like, our auditorium got flooded last year. So we did the Drowsy Chaperone last year. And then right after the Drowsy Chaperone, the auditorium flooded. So then this year, and then my senior directed one act, wasn't able to be in the auditorium, which it is always every year. So then this year, the musical actually was in the gym, which was perfect because it worked perfectly in the gym. But it was such an incredible musical, so much talent with the dancing. And we had a new dance teacher come in last year. So my senior year, we had a new dance teacher come in, and it was just like the dance style she is very good at is African dance and hip hop. And Bring It On is like, they have a lot of hip hop in it. So it was just such an amazing time to come back 1 year after I graduated and see this incredible show.
Yeah. So we're very steeped in all the, theater, and because we have festivals, shows, it's very exciting to see how much talent and passion there is out there for telling stories. I think that's ultimately what we see all the time. And that's why I feel optimistic that really does exist. We need people that will share their stories and take the time to learn the craft and persevere and take the rejection, so that the audience can really also experience something real, as opposed to just, a lot of the LinkedIn posts, not to disparage all the LinkedIn posters.
Which I am a LinkedIn poster.
Yes,
so.
But it's just, so there's a lot of them. My husband posts every day. But anyway.
Oh, wow.
Well, like a few times a week. I think everyone's been very helped by the by Claude and chat and all that stuff. But okay, working for the business world. So not writing our movies. I mean, you could use it. I agree with you, to check the structure of something you've written, and even to potentially give you an idea if you like frame it correctly. but then it can't write any. I have found that it doesn't write.
It can't also really write coverage that well, because I write coverage a lot for one of the places I'm interning in Nashville. And I sometimes just have it like test the coverage that I write compared to a coverage that it would write. And it, one, doesn't really read the script properly. It misses key details. It often, like, they have these things called AI hallucinations where it often just makes up information that's not even in the script. So, and right now it's just, it can't even produce a great summary or recommendations off of the script being inputted in. So I think there's a lot of room where it can grow.
Yeah, I think things that deal with emotion, as all films and theater productions ultimately do, I feel like we're better at that than something that's like approximating and extrapolating our emotions into structure, right? So
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of like The Simpsons with my friend Liz, there used to be a whole like culture of like Simpsons sort of philosophy. And I remember reading this really interesting thing, or maybe it was like Conan O'Brien said this. Someone said this about The Simpsons, which was in a 30-minute episode, you are guaranteed at least one laugh out loud.
mm-hmm.
And that is that is a shock. That's shocking. It's shocking because that comes out of a moment of surprise where you are truly caught off guard and you're buying in and you're permitted and you are having, again, physiological response
Mm-hmm.
to this humor prompt. And that is magic. And nobody, like, a robot can't. Like, I'm sorry, a robot can't.
I agree with you, because it's the same way a comedian, from stand-up, it's an involuntary reaction, laughter. You can't, like, actually, when you laugh, it comes out of you. So I find it magical as well, because it's such a combination of exactly what you're saying: the permission, the buy-in, the surprise. You must have surprise, because that's why people laugh. They have a reaction to the thing they didn't expect. And I do think it's hard to manufacture that from when you're doing, a model of probability, because in a way it's the opposite of surprise, because you're doing like the next thing that is logical as opposed to the next thing that you don't expect.
Yeah,
So,
100%. Yeah.
like recently, I think, as the models have improved, but only because it will say something like "go to sleep." It's too late, and you're like worrying about the state of your children, and they'll be okay. And that was the first time it made me laugh, because it's like, this is better with a cup of coffee in the morning. And I was like, wait, has it been reading my other posts? And it has. So anyway, that's the crazy part. But apparently that's very common, because we went to an AI lecture in education, and there was actually a professor of English there from Yale, a literature professor who works with AI. Apparently a lot of students are using it to write poetry, which is crazy. But in any event, she said, the way I like AI is at night, it tells me to go to sleep. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought that was personal to me. I thought you told me to go to sleep. Like, what is that? So then I was like, wow, like, even that's not original. Like, obviously she's a mother of kids, like, and anxiety about the world and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, oh, yeah, probabilistically derived that's like the thing to say to me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
too funny.
It's a little crazy, but we'll all have to learn to live with it. Obviously, nobody's stopping the making of it.
I guess. I don't know. There is a point at which I might just move to the woods. I don't know.
I know. I think we all have that desire to just shut off. And I think what's interesting is, I think kids do it too, because my son's been like playing all this, he's playing games and stuff like that. And I'm like, I think we're going to try to limit you to the weekends. And I thought he'd be like, screaming up a storm. And he's like, he's not 100% screaming up a storm. I'm like, he must be tired of like just being drawn to this thing all the time. Anyway, I think we get cognitive overload from it as well. Anyway, that's for another time. Well, what are you working on? What you're working? So now you're working on producing your 2 projects, right? So that's sort of now. And can you tell us what they're about, or like or is this like secret Hollywood stuff?
Yeah, no, sure. I have 2 features that I'm trying to get made. One is a smaller budget film called Ghosties. That's like 2 characters, 1 location, 2 best friends haunted by a ghost that shapeshifts and takes the form of each girl when they're alone and messes with their friendship.
Ooh. I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
super fun. Yeah, that's one that I love. I've been hoping to make this for a long time, and hopefully this is the year and we do it like this summer fall upstate New York is the hope. But while I'm doing that, I have a much bigger feature, much higher budget feature that I'm trying to get into a bunch of people's hands. Called Woo Girls. That is a thriller comedy set in downtown Nashville.
No,
I
wait a
know.
minute.
It's a yeah.
That's amazing. With
Wait,
like
what's
music
I
the
from
know.
Nashville, maybe
what's
like
the
music.
premise? What's the premise of the film?
I mean, so the premise is jaded Nashville songwriter living in East Nashville.
I
Her
love it already.
brothers I know, it's very fun.
Whose
But her
brothers?
brother's fiance and bridal party are coming to town for bachelorette weekend.
Oh,
But there's a serial killer who's killing bachelorettes.
no
And
way.
so, yeah.
That sounds like a movie. That sounds amazing.
Hey,
That's
I know.
amazing.
It's gonna be
Why
real
hasn't it
fun. I
been
just need
done
to
yet? That's like one of those that are like, why hasn't it happened? Because
I know.
that's a great idea.
You know,
Wow, I
thank
love
you.
it.
And it's interesting because it's also like it really, but again, like this is a film that very specifically, it's so silly, it's so wild, but it stems from my genuine love of alt country music. So there's all these references to like real
Ah,
Nashville-based, like terrific people. My knowledge of downtown Nashville, which is like silly and insane.
yeah.
Um, and like my perspective as a person observing gentrification, violence against women, like
Wow.
these are all part of the cake. You know, this is all stuff that's baked in over years of experience and watching things and reading things and coming out in this really fun way. So again, a robot could not do this.
No, because it's you. It's come from
Yeah.
your. I love it. Well, Ava, you have to be involved in that.
I know. I can't believe it's such a fun idea.
It's a
Thanks.
great idea.
Well, I'm
Great
working
idea.
hard. I'm working hard to get it going. So we're gonna need some people on set if we can get this
It's
thing.
Scream, I
Yeah.
guess, and Bridesmaids and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like
I
sometimes I
literally
don't
I
like
pitch
them
it.
for the bumps, but
No,
you need them. So
100%.
um,
I've been pitching it as Bridesmaids Meet Scream set in a
you
honky
have.
tonk.
I just said that's what I just said. So
Yeah.
that means that your pitch is so clear that I got your two movies. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I didn't think you were, that's crazy. I literally just
This is
said
the
the prompt.
magic.
Wow,
Yeah, yeah,
you have a
yeah.
great pitch.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super. It's great. You know, like everything, it's you know, it takes time, like whatever. But it's windows of magic and opportunity. But feeling good, feeling hopeful.
Well, that's amazing, and
Yeah.
I love the country music piece because you could also highlight some local music, which is amazing. Like you could have, I see it already. The bridesmaids go to like 4 bars, and
Yeah.
does one get killed
Yeah.
in each one?
No, no, and this is also important. I will tell you this. It's a Final Girls film where none of our girls die. So that's important too, where like I don't want to see women traumatized. I want to see them be heroes.
I love it.
Love
Okay,
it.
Yeah.
that's the hook. Also, wow, I love it.
Yeah.
This is a
Thanks.
great idea and execution because you
Oh
have
my
the
god.
script done.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness,
Thanks.
I'm
Yeah.
Sending all the best wishes into you.
That's really perfect. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks. I know. Fingers crossed.
I feel it.
If
I
for
know.
no other reason than just to visit Nashville.
Yeah, I think Nashville can help you make it though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
fact that you have such a specific relationship with Nashville, you probably can get incentives for lots of local businesses, and just from a production point of view, even some of the local like people with some money might want to be a part of the premiere, all the stuff. So that's actually one of the ways you know, that's an amazing thing to do. I think lean on Nashville. You have such a connection with
Yeah.
it.
And you definitely be able to get a
Yeah.
lot of Vanderbilt students to get
Be extras,
hours for
yeah.
first of all, be extras
Yeah.
and also get hours for the CMA major by coming and helping out and basically having a million little minions to do whatever that you need to do.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Truly. And again, like I think I said this before, I've always been big on community, and I have always been, this is why I do Vandy in Hollywood. I just love communities that I've built, that I've been part of, that people have fed into for my benefit, that I get to feed into for someone else's benefit. It's very meaningful for me to organize my art around my communities. And so that's what I hope for.
I love it. Well, Julie, thank you.
Wait,
I know I'm about
oh
to
yeah,
say
yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I want to just end with the final question of what are 3 things you're looking forward to in the upcoming months? You mentioned a little bit, but it can be one, personal, professional, mix of both.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I mean, we're shooting this on 3 days before the Oscars, so like I'm excited for the Oscars because that's
Yes.
LA's Super Bowl.
Oh my
Yes, that
God.
is true.
What else? Yeah, I'm excited to start. I have a new script in mind. I'm excited to start a new script, and work on that. Beyond that, I am going to Athens and London in June, and I am
Oh,
like
you
super,
are.
super excited. Yeah, yeah,
Are
yeah.
you
Athens just to like see some Greek gods and some old stuff, and and London to see a bunch of plays and just sort of museums. Yeah.
wow?
Oh my
Do you have your
God.
tickets, or are you going to go every day and get tickets to whatever you want in London?
Oh, to shows. No, there's a couple things I have to see because I have friends involved. I'm seeing the new Hunger Games play and
Oh,
yeah, and a couple other things. But yeah, other than that, sort of like sky's the limit and just sort of gonna wait and see.
oh, very exciting.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
saw Ewan McGregor in like something at, in Carousel, or maybe that's.
Oh yeah,
Am I
maybe.
making this up? I think I saw that at like the Don Mara warehouse, like way back when. Someone, I don't
I
know if
die.
that's when it should happen, but I think that's what it was.
This should happen. I love him so much.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Did you?
Yeah.
Actually, Maxime's worked in projects. My son has been.
Oh, 2 projects with them
He
actually.
played young Halston in the Halston TV show where
Oh
Ewan.
yeah.
And so the
Huh.
I think he's like in the very beginning.
He's the first scene in the entire
Yeah,
show.
the little boy that plays young Halston.
And then also he played his like little
He played his brother in a movie called Raymond and Ray, which
Yeah.
was with Ethan Hawke and Ewan McGregor, and it filmed in Richmond and at a cemetery. So it was like super
and it went
exciting.
to TIFF, and that was
Yeah,
my first time at TIFF.
It premiered at
yeah.
TIFF.
Oh my
So I was like,
gosh, that is so
was
cool.
like the best. I mean, and so was Ethan Hawke. They're so different, but they were great each in their own way, you know. So that was really an exciting shoot because Ethan
That's
had
so
so
cool.
many stories, and Ewan like sat there with his coffee, like reading the news. And he was.
I adore Ethan Hawke. Yeah, I just adore these like journeyman actors who are just so cool and smart and care so much. Yeah.
Yeah, they
My
were amazing.
favorite.
I always remember Ethan was very interesting. They were doing a scene, and the director was Rodrigo Garcia, who's the son of Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And
Oh wow.
the story was all about like a difficult father. So anyway, which is very interesting. But in any event, so this is Ethan really thought like a shot needed to be different. Like he was supposed to jump into some, I don't know, they were burying the casket, and he like, I think Rodrigo wanted him to like jump in or something like that, or and Ethan kept on saying it should be done. And he's like, you know, I really believe it would happen this way. And so then Rodrigo like heard out the whole way that Ethan thought it should happen. And then he said, thank you so much. And then we're going to do it my way. And Ethan's like, okay. So I just always remembered, like, I just appreciated him taking this whole like idea and explaining why his character would do this. And then Rodrigo listening and being like, thank you. So, but it was collaborative in that he did take the input anyway. So.
Yeah. See, you face rejection throughout your career, no matter how famous and cool you are.
Even if you're like exactly the star of the movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Even if you're Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Julie, for being on the podcast. I think this is episode 19, so we're almost at 20 episodes. It was so lovely, such an incredible conversation.
An amazing conversation.
Thank you guys both so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored.
Thank you, Julie. We have so many more questions, but we'll have to wrap it up. So you'll have to come back.
Yeah. We'll do it in New York. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
All right. Bye, you guys.